Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.
Very well, Rohini. So happy to see you all. Such a pleasure. My apologies that we couldn't have classes for the past few weeks, but we will make up, and then we'll discuss when everybody is joining. Then we can discuss a little more on that aspect. But in the meanwhile, I'll start with the Mangalacharan prayers, and then we can discuss. Priyanka Mataji, Hare Krishna. Shankar, thank you for joining.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam. Thank you, Shankar, also for joining. All right. I think the bigger question I have is everybody able to hear me well?
Yes.
Is it clear? Okay, good.
Yes, for me.
Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroh Shri Utapadakamalaam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Shri Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpataru Bhayascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nitya Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Matsamo nasti papatma aparadhi cha kaschana parihare pilajjame kim bruve purushottam. Hare Krishna. I welcome all the devotees that have joined, and I'm so happy to see you all. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity that you have given me to serve you. Today we will be discussing the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. We have had a little break, so I'll quickly go over in a nutshell, the previous chapters. If there are some questions, we can take it, and then we can continue with the class. So we started the semester with the 10th chapter. In the last semester, we completed the 9 chapters. The 10th chapter actually is a continuation of the 9th chapter's last instruction by Krishna to Arjuna in the last verse. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskaro mame vaishyasi satyam te pratyani priyoksami atmanam natparayana. Both are the same verses. When Krishna asks Arjuna to always think of him, Arjuna asks the question. Initially, the 10th chapter actually begins with prayers by Arjuna. And then one question he asks is that how can I remember you constantly? And the Lord explains about his different opulences or vibhutis in this material world. And the 10th chapter concludes by saying that, O Arjuna, by a single fragmental part of myself, I maintain this material world. And the 11th chapter, actually, Krishna shows the universal form to Arjuna when asked by Arjuna. Initially, Arjuna is somewhat fearful of this universal form, seeing how the Lord's devastating feature was too much to behold. And Arjuna asks Krishna about the mission of the universal form, and the Lord says, "Time I am the destroyer of all the three worlds." And after that, Arjuna asks Krishna to show the four-handed form and then the two-handed form. And then this completes with a very famous and important verse that Krishna says, "Only through unalloyed devotion can I be known." And in the 12th chapter, we pick up the point based on the unalloyed devotion, where Arjuna asks Krishna, which is better, the worship of impersonal feature or personal feature? And the Lord emphatically says that the worship of personal feature is the best. And then he goes on at length to describe the different stages of devotion to Krishna, from the topmost to the lowermost. Then he also enumerates the different qualities of his devotees that are very pleasing to him. And the 20th chapter ends there. So the Bhagavad Gita is divided into 18 chapters, which means that there is 6, first 6, second 6, and the last 6. And the Acharyas have explained that the first 6 chapters, the theme is karma, and the second 6 chapters, the theme is bhakti. The last 6 chapters, the theme is jnana or knowledge. And in the 13th chapter, actually, we get to know why is that so. Why is that knowledge or jnana important? What is the theme behind that? So far, so good. Any questions, any comments? My apologies that we had to start a little earlier today because there was a program in the temple, and that's the reason why we are pushing it. Any questions, any comments? Anybody who is joining for the first time today?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. This is Shankar. I'm joining for the first time, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Shankar. I'm so happy to see you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
And Payal also is joining for the first time. Wonderful.
Yes,
Krupa?
yes.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare-
Joining for the first time, yes.
Thank you, Payal, for joining. I'm deeply grateful. And Kripaniti Mataji is joining from Malaysia. It's 3:30 a.m. or 3 a.m. right now. I don't know what's the time there, but she's just woke up and she's like enthusiastic. Your enthusiasm actually inspires me, Mataji. And then we also have Kanai Gopal Prabhu. So thank you so much, Kanai Gopal Prabhu, for joining.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
So all good? Any questions, any comments? Anything that we need to talk about before we go on to the maybe somebody can share the screen of the 3rd chapter, the 13th chapter rather, and we can get started.
Sure, Prabhu, 1 second.
Thank you, Matthew. No problem. Shirisha, just take your time. No rush at all. All right, we can go over the different verses, and then you can type in the name of those who want to read, and Avanish will actually call out the devotees who want to read, and then we can get started like that. Is that okay, Avanish?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All right. Okay, who's going first? Avanish, you start first, and then you can call others, okay?
Sure, Prabhu.
Text 1 and 2. Arjuna Uvacha
Arjuna Uvacha
Prakritim Purusham Chaiva
Prakritim Purusham Chaiva
Kshetram Kshetrajnameva Cha
Kshetram Kshetrajnameva Cha
Etadveditumicchami
Etadveditum Ichchami
Jnanam Jneyam Cha Keshava
Jnanam Nyeyam Cha Keshava.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Idam Shariram Kaunteya
Idam Shariram Kaunteya
Kshetram Ityabhidiyate
Kshetram Ityabhidhiyate
Etadyo Vetti Tam Prahu
Etadyo Vetti Tam Prahu
Kshetrajna iti tadvidaha.
Kshetrajna iti tadvidaha. Translation. Arjuna said, O my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, and the field and the knower of the field, and of knowledge and the object of knowledge. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, This body, O son of Kunti, is called the field, and one who knows this body is called the knower of the field.
Thank you. So how many topics or how many aspects did Arjuna inquire? 6, which is, he says, Purusha Prakriti Stohi. So I need Purusha and Prakriti. Those, who is Purusha and who is Prakriti. Then who is Kshetra and who is Kshetrajna. And then what is Jnanam and what is Jneyam. Jnanam means knowledge and Jneyam means the object of knowledge. If a student is going to the university, that student is acquiring knowledge, yes or yes? But then what is the goal of that knowledge? Usually it is a degree or a certificate. That's the end goal. So Arjuna is also asking the same thing. And then what is Kshetra? Kshetra also means fields. So I just wanted to highlight or point out, Mataji, if you can actually click on this tab on chapter 13, right click. No, click on that tab, right click on that tab, Mataji. Just hover on that tab and then right click.
Sorry, Prabhu. I will open it.
No problem. So you can open that particular chapter. Okay, Chaman. Mitan calendar, a tab calendar. Okay. A tab calendar. And pi calendar. Sorry. Text 1 me calendar.
Yes, Prabhu.
Pi calendar link. Okay. Text 1 and 2 and
Yes, Prabhuji.
right click change.
Sure, Prabhu.
Okay. So if you go down a little bit, in the first 6 chapters, so you can see here, in the first 6 chapters.
This one, Prabhu? This paragraph?
Yes, thank you. Yes. So you can see here, in the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, the knower of the body, the living entity, and the position by which he can understand the Supreme Lord are described. In the middle 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the relationship between the individual soul and the super soul in regard to devotional service are described. So here, Srila Prabhupada actually is giving a gradation in what is mentioned in the first 6 chapters and in the middle 6 chapters. In the first 6 chapters, the knower of the body, Krishna explains at length in the second chapter of what is Atma and what is this Sharir and how is it different. He explains that, Mate, just keep it, Mataji, till I say so, don't stop sharing. It's fine. Okay, perfect. So it's mentioned that what is Atma? Atma is that a living part and parcel of Krishna, and position by which he can understand the Supreme Lord are also described. The position is like the different yoga systems Krishna mentions in the first 6 chapters. And then towards the very end of the 6th chapter, Krishna mentions Yoginam api sarvesham mat gateyanantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yukto tamo matah. He says that of all the yogis, the highest yogi is the one who is actually worshipping me with faith and devotion. And that is mentioned in the 6th chapter. And in the middle 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the relationship between the individual soul and the super soul in regard to devotional service are described. First, Krishna explains in the 7th chapter what is the relationship. Because in the first 6 chapters, Krishna explains, okay, there is Atma and there is the body, and the soul has to be situated on the spiritual platform, and many yoga systems are described. Wonderful. But the idea is, whose part or from where does the jiva come that is causing the jiva to be put? For example, I'll give a simple example. If a person is in prison, do you say that, oh, well, he is randomly in prison? I am in prison, but it's randomly there. That is somewhat illogical, because the first question he'll ask is, who put me in prison? Yes or yes? Is that a fair question to ask? So the jiva is, okay, I am the Atma or the eternally living soul, but who is higher than me? And Krishna says, Mama Vamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Krishna says that all these living entities are my eternal part and parcels since time immemorial. And because they are in this material world, they are struggling. So, and then Krishna explains at length about who he is and what his prowess is, and how one should become the devotee of the Supreme Lord is mentioned in the second 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. And now in the 3rd chapter, the interaction or the summary between the Lord and the living entity is described. Now the living entity is described in the first 6. The Lord is said about himself a lot in the second 6. Now, what is the interdynamic? How does the living entity come? One of the questions we are commonly asked is that, Prabhu, if this material nature is so horrible and there is so much of suffering and anxiety, then, when did I come here? Or why did I come here? Why did God put me here, even though I don't want? And the consequent thing is, why doesn't God take me out immediately? And why am I kind of prolonging my life here? And that question also will be answered as we go ahead. Right. And then in the last but one statement, now starting with the 13th chapter, how the living entity comes into contact with material nature and how he is delivered by the Supreme Lord through different methods of fruitive activities, cultivation of knowledge, and the discharge of devotional service are explained. Although the living entity is completely different from the material body, he somehow becomes related. This is also explained. So far, so good. Good introduction to the 13th chapter. Because we want to know, if there is a prisoner that is put into prison, You really want to know how did I come here and who put me here and that why am I suffering and how to get out of it. The similar sentiment here. All right. Avanish, okay. Sirisha Mataji, we can next verse kill them. We can go to the third verse.
Sure.
You can do a back button. You can do a back button, Mataji.
Sure, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Yes,
Sir?
Prabhu. So the next three devotees to read are Timir Prabhu, Ishwari Radha Mataji, and Mrigakshi Vishnupriya Mataji.
Wonderful. Thank you. Haribol Timir. Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi
Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi
sarvakshetreshu bharata
sarvashetreshu bharata
kshetrakshetrajnayor jnanam
kshetrakshetrajnayor jnanam
yattad jnanam matam mama.
yattaj jnanam matam mama. O Shrine of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies, and to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Krishna first mentions, because Krishna or Arjuna asks Krishna the specific Sanskrit term called Kshetrajna. So there are two words in the word Kshetrajna. First is Kshetra, which means the body, and Ajna means the knower of the body. And so the Jna is the root for all the other things like Jnanam, Jneyam, all these Jnata, these are all like, who knows. So Krishna also mentions that apart from the individual knower, there is also a universal knower, and that's me as Paramatma. He says that I am sitting in the heart of all the living entities, and I know the bodily situations of everybody. Sometimes, we wonder that our own dear ones might not know our body, but Krishna for sure knows what's going on with us. And it's just amazing how the Lord sits in your heart and He's always with you. He never leaves the living entity. Even though the living entity is here, He never leaves. One example is given in this connection is, we are in a county, right? There is a county, and the county has the records of all the houses. Yes or yes? Right? If you go to them, ask them, okay, they'll show you the what is this house square footage, what is the lot size, what is the construction, when was it built, so on and so forth. I will know the details of my house. That's it. But the county will know the details of all the houses within the jurisdiction. Same way, I as a living entity know the pleasure and pains that undergo in my body, but Krishna is the knower in all the bodies. That's what it's being mentioned here. And then the next verse, please. Ishwari Radha, all right, thank you. Tat kshetram yacha yadrikcha
Tatshetram yacha yadrikcha
yadvikari yataschaya
yadvikari yatascha yad
sachayo yad prabhavascha
sachayo yad prabhavascha
tat samasena me shrinu.
tat samasena me shrinu. Translation. Now please hear my brief description of this field of activity and how it is constituted, what its changes are, whence it is produced, who that knower of the field of activities is, and what its influences are.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Right. Next verse, please. Mrigakshi Mataji. Okay. Rishibhir Bahuda Gitam Chandobhir Vividai Prithak Brahma Sutra Padaishchaiva Hetu Madhbhir Vinishchitaihi.
The knowledge of the field of activities and of the knower of activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. It is especially present in Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effects. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. So, the material world has the cause and effect, because if you really want to analyze this material world, then there is a certain cause and then there is a certain effect.
It's 1 o'clock.
But in the material, in the spiritual world, there is no cause and there is no effect, because it is purely spiritual. For example, if a person runs too fast and slips, then his slipping and falling is attributed to the fact that he is running fast, right? There's a cause and then there is an effect of that particular thing. So this material existence also has this cause and effect, and the living, because the cause and effect has to be there, otherwise the living entity cannot have the responsibility or the sense that I am the controller. I did this, therefore I got this. For example, a person who's very successful in an exam. What is the cause of the success? Anybody?
Studying?
What is the cause of that success?
Because the person is studying, right?
Yeah, my effort is the cause of my success, correct? Right? So the same way, in this material world, Krishna is saying that this cause and effect is mentioned extensively in the Vedanta Sutras. Now, Vedanta Sutras are the aphorisms which are written by Srila Vyasadeva, for those who are unfamiliar. They are called Vedanta Sutras, they are called Badarayani Sutras, they are also called Brahma Sutras. They all mean the same. Very, very concise and terse way of describing. For example, the first verse of Vedanta Sutra is Atato Brahma Jignasa. The second Vedanta Sutra is Janmadyasya Yataha. This is what it is. The first thing is Atato Brahma Jignasa. That's it. Now inquire about Supreme. And then Janmadyasya Yataha. That is actually a whole sutra. That is from whom everything emanates. So from whom everything emanates, if you cannot understand or know properly, then it is so confusing. What do you mean from whom everything emanates? For a child, okay, I am emanated from my mother or father. There can be so many. So who is that, the ultimate cause? So all this is mentioned in the Vedanta Sutras. All right. Text 6 and 7, please.
Yeah, Prabhu. So next is Divyangi Lalita Mataji, followed by Rohini, and then Atulya Harinam Prabhu.
What about Kripatita Mataji? Kripaniti Mataji is not there? She didn't.
Yes, Prabhu. She is after Atulya Harinam Prabhu.
Ah, got it. Thank you. Right. All right. Please. Sorry, Amnish. Who's next?
So next is Divyangi Lalita Mataji.
So Divyangi Mataji, Hare Krishna. Mahabhutyanihankaro
Mahabhutanyahangkaro
Buddhir avyaktameva cha
Buddhiravyaktameva cha
Indriyani dashaikam cha
Indriyani dashaikam cha
Panchachendriyagocharaः
Panchachendriyagocharaः
Ichchadveshasukham dukkham
Ichchadvesha sukham dukkham
Sangatascetanadritihi
Sangathascetanadritihi
Etat kshetram samasena
Etat kshetram samasena
Savikaram udahritam.
Savikaram mudahritam. The five great elements, false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses and the mind, the five sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, all these are considered in summary to be the field of activities and its interactions.
Thank you. So, essentially, what this material world is, this is the material world. There's nothing more beyond that. Mataji, if you can go back, please, to that particular 6 and 7. Sirisha Mataji. Okay, actually, the 5 great elements, false ego, intelligence, unmanifested, these are actually everything is just these items. That's about it in the material world. Beyond this, there is nothing that actually has any implication or bearing. And whatever you see is the activities that are happening here. And the soul is completely different from these set of elements. Ankur Prabhu had a question. He raised his hand.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhu, you mentioned that in the spiritual world, there is no cause and effect. What does that mean?
So in the material world, the cause and the effect are completely different. Not different, they're related to each other, but there is a segregation or separation. Because I have a desire, and that desire is the cause. For example, I have desire to buy a car. Now that desire is the cause. And if I have enough money, I go to the dealership and buy a car. The car you see in front is the effect. But in the spiritual world, because everything is done for the satisfaction of Krishna, the cause and effect is not transformed in the same way as in the material world. There is a desire to serve Krishna, which is the cause, but Yogamaya actually does the effect. So in that sense, the cause and effect is just Krishna himself, and there is no difference. That's what I was trying to say. Is that
okay,
helpful?
Prabhuji? Thank you.
And because the last other portion is the effects are usually sometimes the cause can be multiple, but the effect is based on our destiny. For example, if one is really wealthy, then the destiny is the cause of his wealth, and one is really suffering, then the destiny is the same. But in the material world, there is no question of destiny or any karma, because you are completely devoid of that. Then what is the cause and effect in that sense? That can be very clearly distinguished in the material world. That's not there in spiritual world.
Thank you for mentioning that, Prabhu. That's much more helpful. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Who's next?
Prabhu, next is Rohini.
Okay. Amanitvam adhambitvam
Amanitvam adambhitvam
ahimsa kshantirarjavam
ahimsa shantirarjavam
acharyopasanam shaucham
acharyopasanam shocham
stairyam atma vinigraha
stairyam atma vinigraha
Indriyartheshu vairagyam.
Indriyartheshu vairagyam.
Ahankara evacha. Sorry, anahankara evacha.
Anahankara evacha.
Janma mrityu jara vyadhi.
Janma mrityu jara vyadhi.
Dukkha doshanudarshanam.
Dukkha doshanudarshanam.
Asaktir anabhisvanga. Sorry. Asaktir anabhishvangaha.
Ashaktir anabhishvanga.
Putradhara grihadishu.
Putradhara grihadishu.
Nityam samachittatvam.
Nityam cha samachittatvam.
Ishtanishtopapatishu.
Ishtanishtu papatishu.
Mai chanyanyena yogena.
Mai chananya yogena.
Bhaktir avyabhicharini.
Bhaktiravya vicharini.
Vivikta desha sevitvam.
Vivikta desha sevitvam.
Aratir jana samsadi.
Aratir jana samsadi.
Adhyatma jnana nityatvam.
Adhyatma jnana nityatvam.
Tattva jnanartha darshanam.
Tattva jnanartha darshanam.
Etad jnanam iti proktam.
Etaj jnanam iti proktam.
Ajnanam yadathonyata.
Ajnanam yadathonyata. Translation: humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of evil of birth, death, old age and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization, and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be is ignorance.
Thank you. So here the number of items are 20, and Krishna says that this is knowledge, because Arjuna asks Krishna, what is knowledge, right? Jnanam. So he says Purusha, Prakriti, Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Jnanam, and Jnayam. So Jnanam, now Krishna is explaining that aspect of Arjuna, which are the 20 elements here. Srila Prabhupada's purport is fantastic as usual with many other purports, but this is especially practical for us because he goes into each of these qualities and tries to define what they are. Interestingly, for non-violence that is mentioned here, Srila Prabhupada writes, non-violence is generally taken to mean not killing or destroying the body, but actual non-violence means not to put others into distress. It is such a very profound statement that he makes. Non-violence means not to put others into distress. So as far as possible, we can avoid putting others into distress. Now, there are practical considerations or aspects to it. I'll give a simple example. So usually I kind of take somebody as an example who is not usually offended, but anybody can raise their hand. All right, Ishwari Radha Mataji. So God forbid, I pray to Krishna that throughout her life she remains happy and healthy. But assume that she has some condition, and she goes to the doctor, and the doctor says that we need to do certain surgery. The only way to remedy this situation is to do surgery. And Ishwari Radha Mataji says, yes, doctor, please do surgery. Oh my God, I cannot do surgery because that means I have to cut you and I'll be subjecting you to violence. Oh, that's too much. No, I cannot do it. Second example, there is a classroom. You enter that classroom and the teacher is teaching, but instead of well-behaved students sitting at their desks, curiously trying to learn the knowledge, the classroom is complete chaos. Kids are running here and there. They are screaming, yelling, shouting. One kid is punching another kid. And the teacher is refusing to shout or to kind of take a stick to calm them down. And the person asks, why? Well, I don't want to put them into violence because putting others into distress condition is violence. You can see the examples. So we never want to put others in violence. That is on an unnecessary level. But there is certain necessary quote unquote violence that has to be put, because people will use this, those who are atheistic people, they'll use this exactly to beat up Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is saying that you should be non-violent, and that is knowledge. Oh, why is he using Arjuna to kill millions of soldiers? Is he not actually, being a duplicitous person here? Yes or yes? Is the argument fair? So the deeper knowledge is that unnecessary violence will cause implication, and there is a necessary violence as well. I'll give one last example. And Payal Mataji, I'm going to Payal and Kanai Gopal. While I'll just going to use you as an example. Don't mind, okay? If you mind, then let me know. I'll not do that. God forbid there is an intruder in your house, and he or she, we are gender neutral. He or she has come to rob and to kind of do some harm to you. And then you call 911, and then the police come in and they see that this particular person is really vicious and trying to harm you or something like that. And then the person and the police, it's okay, let them go. What's the problem? They just came here to steal something. They wanted to beat you up. Well, you should take few blows, like good Christians, take a couple of blows on the cheek. Everything will be all right. You'll be like shocked. What's going on here? You have come here to kind of give punishment to the criminals, not to, say that. So the idea here is that violence is never based on the false ego, and usually violence is done for helping others. That is the whole idea. That's a practical aspect of non-violence. And in this way, there are so many beautiful things. Srila Prabhupada writes that one shouldn't expect honor for ourselves. Amanitvam. We shouldn't be going around trying to say, hey, I'm here. And then one last point. Dukkha doshanu darshana. In the material world, people say, shh, don't talk about death. You're happy, live here, happily live. Krishna is saying, actually, the element of knowledge is to actually see the faults in material existence. Here, dukkha doshanu darshanam, which means that having that awareness is very important, and it's a knowledge according to Krishna. But that knowledge shouldn't paralyze you. Every day morning, sorry, Kanai Gopal Prabhu and Payal Mataji, don't mind. So, one day Payal Mataji goes to Kanai Gopal Prabhu, and he is not yet awake, and he is trying to pull the bed sheet. Hey, Baba, get up, go to the office. And Prabhu says, no, this is such a scary place. Who knows what is happening outside? I go COVID. Even if I drive, there can be an accident. It's better I stay home. This is like, I cannot do this. The dukkha doshanu darshanam is that our awareness is there, but we continue to act knowing that this is something that is temporary and this is not going to be permanent place. But at the same time, we cannot stop, not do our duty as well, and do it on Krishna. And with that attitude, it's very liberating, this material world. You're not afraid, but rather you're doing it in the spirit of seeing that it can be a possibility, but I'll still do my duty. And it's a very liberating thing. So this is very, very beautiful thing. And the most important item amongst all these 20, anybody can guess, you can type it in chat. What is the most important among all these 20 items of knowledge according to Krishna? You can guess.
Amanitvam, Prabhu.
Amanitvam, thank you. More.
Approaching spiritual master.
Wonderful. More.
Unalloyed devotion to me.
Excellent. Yes, that is what is mentioned here. And then we'll do the last paragraph in this particular purport. And then, we'll get a fair idea of what we are talking about. And the last paragraph of this purport, it is mentioned beginning from practicing. So it's, Mataji, just go up once. I think it's also important. Freedom from home and children. There we go. I'll pick somebody else this time. Riyakshi Mataji. Her husband comes and says, "All right, I'm done. I'm taking renunciation." What? What happened? Well, Krishna is saying freedom from wife, children. That is knowledge. I was in ignorance till now. Now I am going to take vacation, and I'm done. So if you go to as far as detachment, little go up, Mataji. I'll guide you. Control F. Control F. Control button nokki F ottandi keyboard.
Sure, Prabhu.
And as for AS space FOR.
As far as realization, this one.
As far as detachment from అది కాదు ఇంకా కొంచెం పైన ఉంది. One more paragraph, one more.
Okay,
on the top. Yes, as far as detachment. As far as detachment from children, wife, and home, it is not meant that one should not have no feelings for these. They are natural objects of affection, but when they are not favorable to spiritual progress, then one should not be attached to them. So it's quite important that one has that kind of balance. Otherwise, unfortunately, people will think, oh, I'm having so many difficulties in marriage, and Krishna is giving me the license to quit the marriage. But then that is really premature way of kind of taking situation into hand. All right. Any questions? So far, so good. So we have done Jnanam, then we'll do the Jnayam next part. Next few verses are Jnayam. Ankurji.
Hare Krishna. So Prabhuji, these 20 items are the knowledge or they are the object of knowledge? Because humility should be a result of knowledge. That's what I thought. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Excellent question. So humility can work in both the ways. For example, if there is no humility, then there is no way you can get any knowledge. It's a catch-22 situation. So Krishna is saying at least you inculcate that quality. And most of the kids actually inculcate that at a young age. Imagine you go to a child goes to the class, really thinking he's smart. Because the teacher says that 2 + 2 is 4. He'll say, I don't believe you, prove it. Well, there is the tallest mountain in the world is Mount Everest. I don't believe you, show me. Then if the child begins with, you get the idea. If the child begins with not having humility, you will not learn anything. So Krishna is saying that the very first item. But then the beauty is the anahankara comes as a result of realized knowledge. Because anahankara means I am not the doer, will come, Ankurji, only when you realize Krishna and his greatness. And Krishna is explaining in the next few verses that how actually you are not doing much and it's happening by the modes of material nature. So at least begin with the humility, and then you will end up with a more refined humility when you know Krishna. You'll be convinced of that humility. It's not a theory anymore. It's like, wow, Krishna is so supreme. And wow, it's like a small child who's like showing off, oh, these are my toys, this is this, this is that, this is that. And then when he realizes actually, and then he's showing off to his father, who is the source of the toys. Then when he gets that feeling, then he'll say, oh, okay. I'm not going to show. Is that helpful?
Thank you, Prabhuji. So these are items of knowledge itself.
Correct.
Jnana.
Correct.
Thank
And
you.
unalloyed devotional service, how can it be jnana? Is at least theoretical understanding of it. You know, that is that. Okay, you get it. Can I go, Prabhu?
Prabhuji, following up with Ankur Prabhu's line of thought, would it be correct to say that these items are more like knowledge in action as compared to, you know, knowledge in head? Because mostly we think knowledge means to know things, but this is more like that defines one's character.
Yes, to an extent, but this is more not even in terms of the quantity or the content of knowledge. These are the qualities that actually will get you more knowledge. So for example, approaching spiritual master is an active, and freedom from wife and children again can be passive, can be active. So it's a combination of both. But Krishna is like just encompassing the all knowledge that is, and then at the end it says, besides these, whatever else is there is ignorance. So at least we clearly know whether I am a practical knowledge or theoretical knowledge, but at least there is some knowledge, or I am the realm of knowledge. And then the later steps is that we can get to know jnayam, which is the object of realizing the object of knowledge is the next step, which we will discuss in the next few verses. Can I go, Prabhu? Is that okay?
Yes, Prabhu, thank you.
Yes. Divyangi.
So my question is on verses 6 and 7, Prabhu. So there we are talking about the field of activities, and like desire, hatred, happiness, distress, those are included there. So those, I feel like those are more like feelings. And like, I mean, like, why those are specifically included there? Why not like jealousy, anger, compassion? Specifically, why these four dualities are only included there, the field of activities?
Okay. So, Mate, the umbrella of all the other emotions are from these two, the dualities, these two dualities, Dvandva. And Krishna actually says that these two dualities are the cause of material existence. I will pull up another verse just to say what I'm talking about. So can we pull up 7:27, please? 7th chapter, 27 verse. So before the verse is being pulled up, the verse is Ichchadvesha Samuthena Vandva Mohena Bharata Sarva Bhutani Sammoham Sarge Yanti Parantapa. Krishna says that Ichchadvesha Samuthena. So he says that these dualities, Ichcha and Dvesha, they are actually Vandva Mohena Bharata. By these two, the living entities are bewildered and they take birth in the material existence. So every other feeling actually is within this. For example, you talk of compassion. Compassion is an extension of love or icha, or natural thing. And then jealousy means dvesha. You have it, I don't have it. So there is a dvesha. So just the icha and dvesha, these two are the primary roots. From there, many emotions come about. But essentially, this is this. And the last point on this Mataji is, I am a living entity and I'm conditioned by material nature, which means I see others also as material or matter. And I cannot perceive the Lord being present within them and how the destiny is acting upon them. So that dvesha comes because I think that they themselves are self-made and I am also self-made. And somehow or other, I can get what I want, by my own efforts. So you can see that how it's not just the objects, but even persons also are there, the subjects of hatred and desire. Is it good so far? Divyangi?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Other questions, comments? Okay. All right. Let's go to the 19th verse, which is after explaining about all these, Krishna explains about Jnana. Who's next?
Yes, Prabhu. Next is Atulya Harinam Prabhu, followed by Kirupaniti Mataji and Shankar Prabhu.
Wonderful. Atulya Harinam Prabhu, how are you?
Good, Prabhu. How are you? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Nice to see you.
Yes.
It's number 19, sorry, 19. Iti kshetram tata jnanam.
Iti kshetram tata jnanam.
Nyayam choktam samasataha.
Niyam choktam samasita.
Madbhakta etad vijnaya.
Madbhakta etad vijnaya.
Madbhava yopapadyate.
Madbhava yo upapadyate. Thus, the field of activities, the body, knowledge, and the knowable have been summarily described by me. Only my devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain to my nature.
Thank you. So, Srila Prabhupada actually, in the purport, he really gives the summary for the up to what we have understood. In the second paragraph of this particular purport, he mentions, now to summarize, one may understand that verses 6 and 7, beginning from Mahabhutani and continuing through Chetana Dhritihi, analyze the material elements and certain manifestations of the symptoms of life. These combine to form the body or the field of activities. And verses 8 through 12 from Amanitvam through Tattva Jnanartha Darshanam describe the process of knowledge for understanding both types of knower of the field of activities, namely the soul and the super soul. Then verses 13 through 18, beginning with Anadimat Param, continuing through Hridi Sarvasya Vishishtam, describe the soul and the supreme lord of the super soul. One of the questions people ask is, Prabhu, this is all a little confusing. The first 6 chapters you said is karma, correct? The second 6 chapters you said is bhakti. Third chapter 6 you said is what? Jnana, correct? Oh, why is bhakti before jnana? Here Krishna is saying that only those my devotees can understand this jnana. This jnana is different from the dry jnana that we learned in the earlier chapters of Bhagavad Gita, where in the 4th chapter the Jnana Yoga is mentioned. This dynamics of understanding Krishna happens only or understood only by those who are devotees. So having that bhakti or the platform of bhakti, one can easily grasp what Krishna is trying to say in the last 6 chapters. That's why it's mentioned like that. And then the other thing is Krishna says, attaining to my nature. Please understand that each of us are part and parcels of Krishna. You are all extraordinarily wonderful souls to have come to this class to listen to Bhagavad Gita and to understand what Krishna is trying to teach us. And by doing this, even in the littlest possible way, whatever we can, we immensely get the favor of Krishna, and we take something, the knowledge that we take now will be eternally for ours to keep. Nobody is going to either steal that knowledge, neither the time will degrade that knowledge, the change in the body will not degrade. It's the same knowledge that's going to hold us. And then I'm so grateful to all of you kind of participating in this. Any questions? Okay, we'll do a few more verses and then we'll take in the end. Ripati Tamataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah.
All right, let's do verse number 20.
Yeah, okay.
Prakritim Purusham Chaiva.
Prakritim Purusham Chaiva.
Vidyanadhi Ubhavapi.
Vidyanadi Ubhavapi.
Vikarams Gunams Chaiva.
Vikarams Gunams Chaiva.
Vidhi Prakriti Sambhavan.
Vidhi Prakriti Sambhavan. Translation. Material nature and the living entities should be understood to be beginningless. Their transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Krishna confusing us or what? No, seriously, he says that material nature is beginningless. They have no beginning, correct? Yes, sir. That's what Krishna said. The living entity has no beginning. That we get. That I'm never born and I never die. Good, Ankurji. But then material nature is beginningless. That is little hard to follow. Because we hear in the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam that material nature is created at certain time and then maintained for certain time and then destroyed, right? So when Krishna says it's beginningless, how am I to understand that it's beginningless? So Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that it doesn't mean that it has always existed. Sometimes material nature is hidden and sometimes the material nature is manifest. But that doesn't mean it didn't exist. It always existed in the body of the Lord, either in a manifested or unmanifested nature. For example, a person has, I'll pick on Shankar. Shankar, what's your, if you have no bar money, money is not an object and we have a lot of wealth, which car would you buy?
Toyota Camry, bro. That's what I was thinking. Or Tesla.
Toyota, Tesla. Okay, you know what? Let's go with Tesla for now. And then, and let's make it Tesla Roadster, which is about, I heard, costs us quite some money, $250,000, as that is. So Shankar buys Tesla Roadster, and he goes around, driving his car, and everybody knows that he has Tesla. But then, sometimes he decides to walk. And he puts the Tesla in the garage and it is hidden. Nobody can see it. Does this mean that Shankar lost the Tesla forever? No, it is just hidden in the garage. So same way, the material nature is always intrinsic part and parcel of Krishna. Sometimes it's manifest and sometimes it's unmanifest. Where it is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita that material nature is beginningless, it implies that Krishna's Shaktis or energies, which material nature is one, is actually always with him. There is no question of, I created the material nature now. Okay, this is an advanced topic, but hopefully it helps to kind of understand this material nature is beginningless, though it seems to be being created and destroyed. All right, next verse.
Yes, Prabhu. Next is Shankar Prabhu, followed by Payal Mataji, and then Kane Gopal Prabhu.
Wonderful. Karya Karana Kartrutve
Karyakarana-kartritve
Hetu Prakritiruchyate
hetu prakritir-uchyate
Purusha Sukha Dukkhanam
purusha sukha-dukkhanam
Bhoktritve Heturuchyate.
bhoktritve heturuchyate. Translation. Nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in this world.
Thank you. And to answer, just to answer Ankurji's earlier question, if you can see the purport, it's a short purport. The different manifestations in the purport. Okay, everybody is there? Okay. The different manifestations of the body and senses among the living entities are due to material nature. There are 8,400,000 species of life, and these varieties are creations of material nature. They arise from different sensual pleasures of the living entity who thus desires to live in this body or that. When he is put into different bodies, he enjoys different kinds of happiness and distress. His material happiness and distress are due to his body and not to himself as he is. In the original state, there is no doubt of enjoyment, and therefore that is his real state. Because of the desire to lord it over material nature, he is in the material world. In the spiritual world, there is no such thing. So if you can see that the cause and effects and even the whole material paraphernalia doesn't exist in spiritual world. So in that sense, there would be no cause and effect at all. So in any case, just wanted to add that particular point.
I see. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. And next verse, please. It's Payal Mataji, right? Okay. Purushah prakritisto hi
पुरुषः प्रकृतिस्थो हि
bhunte prakritijan gunan
भुङ्क्ते प्रकृतिजान् गुणान्
karanam gunasangosya
कारणं गुणसङ्गोऽस्य
sadasadyoni janmasu.
सदसद्यो निजन्मसु. Translation: the living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus, he meets with good and evil among various species. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you. Mukta Mataji, you're there?
Yes, Prabhuji, I am there.
So, Mataji, please do the first part. This is an important verse, extremely important verse. So let's do the purport to that. The first paragraph, if you can, please do the first paragraph.
Yes. The first paragraph, Prabhu?
Yes.
Okay. This verse is very important for an understanding of how the living entity transmigrate from one body to another. It is explained in the second chapter that the living entity is transmigrating from one body to another just as one changes dress. This change of dress is due to his attachment to material existence. As long as he is captivated by this false manifestation, he has to continue transmigrating from one body to another. Due to his desire to lord it over material nature, he is put into such undesirable circumstances. Under the influence of material desire, the entity is born sometimes as a demigod, sometimes as a man, sometimes as a beast, as a bird, as a worm, as an aquatic, as a saintly man, as a bug. This is going on, and in all cases, the living entity thinks himself to be the master of his circumstances, yet he is under the influence of material nature.
Thank you, Mataji. Sachinandan Hari Prabhu, can you please do the next paragraph? Pratibha Mataji, are you there?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Oh, Sachinandan Hari is there. Okay, thank you, Prabhuji.
Sorry, Prabhuji. Actually, I was on phone, so.
Oh, my apologies. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. What should I do, Prabhuji?
If you can read just the second paragraph, please.
Okay, how he is put into such different bodies is explained here. It is due to association with the different modes of nature. One has to rise, therefore, above three material modes and become situated in the transcendental position. That is called Krishna consciousness. Unless one is situated in Krishna consciousness, his material consciousness will oblige him to transfer from one body to another because he has material desires since time immemorial. But he has to change that conception. That change can be effected only by hearing from authoritative sources. The best example is here. Arjuna is hearing the science of God from Krishna. The living entity, if he submits to his hearing process, will lose his long cherished desire to dominate material nature, and gradually and proportionately, as he reduces his long desire to dominate, he comes to enjoy spiritual happiness. In a Vedic mantra, it is said that as he becomes learned in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he proportionately relishes his eternal blissful life.
Thank you. Thank you, Sachin.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
So this is a pretty important verse that is being mentioned here. So when we talk of, oh, you have to get up in the morning, you have to chant your rounds, you have to abstain from doing certain things, you have to eat prasadam, you have to not do certain things that that you shouldn't do, and people will question why. Okay, you should not eat, for example, non-vegetarian. Why? Do this. Why? When the reason why is Krishna is saying that what we do, how we think, and what we eat constitutes what modes of material nature that we associate with. And it's easily understandable. For example, a person consuming alcoholic beverages, excessively, it shows. You're not able to think properly. You're not able to walk properly. You are strictly asked not to drive during that time. Why? It's the same person. But what changed? What changed is that you actually consumed alcohol, and it changed your whole consciousness. And so Krishna is saying that because of the modes that you are associating yourself with, your body also changes when you are in such modes. And to give a brief overview, in the 14th chapter, or 17th, one of those chapters, Krishna says that those who give up their bodies in the mode of ignorance take birth among the animal kingdom, and those who are taking birth or who die in the mode of passion, they are born as human beings. And those in the mode of perfect goodness, they go into the planets of demigods. So it matters what you eat, how you discriminate actually matters on where you end up. And that's the reason why there is a spiritual, it is called a spiritual science. It is not spiritual mythology. It's not spiritual superstition. It's not spiritual hodgepodge something. No, it is a very practical science, and you can see how Krishna is mentioning that based on how you do it, then you ultimately get into that. And it clearly explains. By reading Bhagavad Gita, our own faith is strengthened. And we understand that why we are doing what we are doing, there is a reason behind it. Otherwise, people will think, oh my God, I have become a devotee and I have to give up so many things. Is there any positive benefit at all? Or, people are just enjoying life and I am the one suffering constantly. What am I doing here? No, please understand, yes, the voluntary giving up of these things actually get a great benefit in the end, and it's not seen now. Just like a student, like, I have to do the homework, I have to take the exam, so much, this is terrible. But when you actually are getting your degree and then when you're settling, like, oh, okay, yes, I know why. And same is the case with spiritual life. And the student who just said, forget exams, I'll just play and enjoy, the enjoyment is now, you can see the consequences also. So far so good, because this is a pretty important verse. All right, so let's go to the next verse. Sri Shamataji. Thank you, Sri Shamataji, for doing the thing. Okay. Whose turn is it now?
Next is Kane Gopal Prabhu.
Okay. Upadrashtanumanta cha
Upadrashtanumanta cha
Bharta Bhokta Maheshwaraha
Bharta Bhokta Maheshwaraha
Paramatmeti Chapyukto
Paramatmeti Chapyukto
Dehesmin Purushah Paraha.
Dehesmin Purushah Paraha. Translation: Yet in this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and the permitter, and who is known as the super soul.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
So after describing at length about the Brahman, which is the soul, because Brahman actually often is confusing, and that's the reason why there are so many philosophies. Some philosophers say that no, God and you are same. You are that God and God is you. There is no difference. God is you, God is in everybody, everybody is God. So, here Krishna is saying, no, there is a little difference here, that within this body of mine is the Paramatma that is sitting here, and he is the overseer and permitter. This has to be a little more deeply thought about or a little bit discussed, if that's okay. When you say permitter, the question will come is, if Paramatma is sitting in my heart as permitter and making me or allowing me to do things, then why am I suffering? He is the one making me do it. I shouldn't be suffering. Is that a fair objection? It said here it is permitter, so he has to give permission. The answer to that is that Paramatma, yes, he is the permitter in the sense that if I have my desires, then he actually gives the situation for me to pursue my desires. I'll give an example. I'll pick on Ujjwala Rasamati. Even if she gets upset, I can run away from the temple or run away. Now she's one of the nicest ladies I can ever find. So assume that Parth is his son. They have two sons, and Parth is the younger one. Of course, he's grown up. He's a teenager now. But assume that he was little small. He was like 4 or 5 years old, and he wanted to actually have to play. He wanted to play. And then Mataji actually would build a playpen. She would build like a fence and put the toys within that. Fair enough? Yes or yes? Anybody can relate to that particular thing? So the desire of Parth is permitted by Mataji to build that fence and give the toys. When we are being talk of permitter, I have desire, but unless Krishna approves and Krishna permits me to do so, I cannot do it. And that power Krishna has. And he says, based on your past karma, which I know, but which you don't know, I will permit accordingly. In Brahma Samhita, it is mentioned the exact same thing. Yastvindra gopa mathavendra mahosva karma bandhanurupa falabhajana matanoti karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajan govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. In the Brahma Samhita, Yastvindra gopa matavendra mahosva karma, that from Indra, who is the king of heaven, to Indra Gopa. Indra Gopa is a very cute kind of animal. Now, every animal is these days become cute. All in the movies, you show animals as cute and everybody thinks animals are cute. Teddy bear, okay? Even before that. Oh, cute teddy bear. You try to go hug a teddy bear in the park, it won't be a pleasant experience, I promise you. But on the practical, oh, cute. Indra Gopa is, actually, I remember when I was growing up, very small, there used to be these hardbound books with the ladybug, with a red color bug with black dots. You remember anybody? I don't know the name of the publisher that carried that symbol. That red insect with black dots, two things, right? That actually is Indra Gopa. It's very, very small. It's like super small, tiny small. And it shows up only when the rains fall. The first rains fall, these Indra Gopas come out from the ground and they are like really bright and bright color. So that is Indra, king of heaven. Indra Gopa is a tiny insect. Krishna is making sure that based on your karma, you get your fruits. You get your reactions, you get your plus, you get your minus. And that is permitted. Unless Krishna agrees, you cannot do it. Now, there is an alternative. Okay, I have tried my best in all legal ways to get this. Illegal. Well, you'll be trapped into your own karma. So don't try that at home. So it's so that's where it's permitted. But unless my desires are tuned back to Krishna, I'll be obligated to take the body. So far, so good. Any questions, any comments? We are almost there. 2 o'clock, right?
Prabhu, I have a question.
Yes, Mataji.
In the purport, I'm not clear the sentence where it says, because the monist philosophers take the knower of the body to be one, they think that there is no difference between the super soul and the individual soul. Can you please clarify that, please?
Sure, Mataji. The monists or the Mayavadi philosophers, they say that there is no difference between the Jivatma and Paramatma. There is only one Atma, and that is me. The ultimate reality is Brahman. And I am also that Brahman. They use the famous shlokas like Tattvamasi, and then what is the other one?
Aham Brahmasmi.
Thank you very much. Aham Brahmasmi and Tattvamasi. Tattvamasi means you are that. Aham Brahmasmi means I am Brahman. So there is no difference. It's the same God. You are God and I am God. Just by when the ignorance just is removed from me, then I'll become that God. I am that. But Krishna is clearly mentioning, no, you are not that, because I am that. You are below that. You are actually subordinate to me, and that's Krishna is trying to say. I am sitting in your body as a permitter and also as an overseer. I'm seeing your activities. So is that helpful, Kripatika? We can go into a whole diatribe on why this comes about, but is that good enough?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you. Um, uh, if you get into the word juggler, next verse, who's going to read?
Next,
Avanish?
Prabhu, we have Swapna Mataji and then Ankur Prabhu.
All right. Swapna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Ya evam veti purusham.
Ya evam veti purusham
Prakritim cha gunai saha.
prakritim cha gunai saha
Sarvata vartamanopi.
sarvata vartamanopi
Na sabhuyo bhijayate.
na sabhuyo bhijayate. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Translation, please.
Translation. One who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity and the excuse me, Prabhuji. This I can't see the text. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can go up. Go up. Yeah.
Yeah, I got it now, Prabhuji. One who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity and the interaction of the modes of
It's
nature
2 o'clock.
is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position.
Thank you. And my apologies for that. It's the clock that announces every hour. We have 30 more minutes to go. Next one, please. Manish.
Next we have Ankur Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Right. Dhyanenatmani pashyanti.
Dhyanenatmani pashyanti.
Kechid atmanamatmana.
Kechit atmanamatmana.
Anye sankhyena yogena.
Anye sankhyena yogena.
Karma yogena chapare.
Karma yogena chapare. Translation. Some perceive the super soul within themselves through meditation, others through the cultivation of knowledge, and still others through working with the fruitive desires. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. 26, next.
Next is Vishal Prabhu, followed by Mukta Mataji.
Thank you. Anye tvevam ajanantaha.
Anyatva evam janantah.
Shrutva nebhya upasate.
Shrutavanebhya ubhashyate.
Tepi chati tarantyeva.
Tepi chati taranta eva.
Mrityum shruti parayana.
Mrityum shruti parayana. Translation. Again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about him from others. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death.
And this is a beautiful purport by Srila Prabhupada, where he mentions about how this verse is very practical for modern age. Because in the previous verse, we talked about so many yoga systems, and Krishna talks about doing the varnashrama or doing the different types of sacrifices initiated in the Vedas to get knowledge, or to perform the dhyana yoga process, which means going to the forest and selecting a place which is neither too high nor too low, and so on and so forth. And all those seem really difficult for this age of Kali Yuga, where we neither have the social system in place, nor do we have any bodily training to actually do this kind of yoga system. So Srila Prabhupada uses this, saying that it's better to follow the authorities and we can understand Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada himself is a prime example that he came to the West, and everybody. All right, Mukta Mataji, next verse, 13:27. Yavat sanjayate kinchid
यावत् जायते किञ्चित्
Sattvam sthavara jangamam
सत्त्वं स्थावरजङ्गमम्
Kshetra kshetrajna samyoga
क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञसंयोगात्
Tadviddhi Bharatarshava.
तद्विद्धि भरतर्षभा. Translation: O chief of the Bharatas, know that whatever you see in existence, both the moving and the non-moving, is only a combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field.
Thank you. I can give one example. If one sees a movie, you can see there are certain elements to that, and pretty much that constitutes this. There are actors who are like playing their part. There is some music. There is some scenery. Everything you see is just that combination of these, cinematic elements that bring about this experience of a movie. Yes or yes? So far, so good. So in the same way, Krishna is saying, just think about it. It's such a beautiful point Krishna is making. Everything you see here is just the combination of matter and the jiva trying to really struggle into this material world, and the whole world that you see is nothing. And when you hear these words, you feel so liberated. You'll say, actually, there is nothing serious going on in this world. It gives you the impression of being extremely serious and grave or something that's really important here. But Krishna is saying, no, not really. That's not the goal. And you've been experiencing this since time immemorial, the same thing, the same combination of matter and spirit. It's what you have been experiencing. Now it's time to actually rise to the higher truth and seriously pursue the spiritual life and go back home, back to God. And that is the message that Krishna is saying. Who's next, Aaron?
Prabhu, Mukta Mataji is the last devotee to volunteer, Prabhu.
I see. Now I'll volunteer devotees. Okay. Hey, there is Ramijay Prabhu and Vijay Krishna. Who wants to go? Father and son go.
I can go first, Prabhu.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ramijay Prabhu. So happy to see you. Samam sarveshu bhuteshu.
Samam sarveshu bhuteshu.
Tishtantam parameshwaram.
Tishtantam parameshwaram.
Vinashyat Vinashyat. Oh man. Vinashyat Swanishantam.
Vinashyat swa vinashyantam.
Thank you. Okay. Ya pashyati sapashyati.
Ya pashyati sapashyati.
Translation.
One who sees the super soul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies, and who understands that neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, actually sees.
Thank you. Next, 30th. Rejected. All right. It was 29th, right?
We just did 29th, yes, Prabhu.
Yes, 29th.
No, sorry, 28th we did. Now 29th.
29th. Samam pashyan hi sarvatra.
Samam pashyanti sarvatra.
Samavasthitamishwaram.
Samavasthitamishwaram.
Vinasyantyatmanatmanam.
Vinastyatmanam. Sorry.
No problem. I'll do that slowly. Nahinastyatmanatmanam.
Nahinastyatmanatmanam.
Tato yati param gatim.
Tato yati param gatim. One who sees the Supersoul equally present everywhere, and every living being does not degrade himself by his mind. Thus he approaches the transcendental destination.
Thank you.
Prabhu. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Prabhu.
No, go ahead, and then I'll do that.
Okay, Prabhu. I just wanted to say that some of the devotees have volunteered to read.
Okay. But just tell me the name, but then we can, I have few points to make here,
Sure,
where it is mentioned here that in the mantra 7 of Ishopanishad actually says the same thing. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmaiva bhut vijanataha tatra ka o mohaka shoka ekatvam anupashyata. Here also it's mentioned the same thing, that if you see the living entity as part and parcel of Krishna, and because Krishna is the permitter, no one can actually cause any benefit or any destruction to you unless Krishna permits that. It's a very profound feeling of, security, that people might try to harass me or people may try to harm me or kill me, but Krishna is there sitting within the heart. And, unless Krishna allows it, it's not going to happen. And we had the same story of in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela, where his devotees were afraid that Chand Kazi might actually send for the governor, and soldiers might come and attack the village. And then Mahaprabhu said that I'm sitting in everyone's heart. Unless I give permission, what can they do? So don't be afraid. That's the same theme that is going on here. In the material consciousness, we ascribe power to somebody more than what they can do. Or we think of somebody as really low because of X number of factors. But in both the cases, Krishna is sitting in either of the heart. And then unless that he permits, it's not going to happen. So taking shelter of Krishna means that taking shelter of Paramatma also. So that's that's a satisfying feeling. Next.
I have a question.
Yes.
I think I'm getting confused, totally confused now. So if it's the, I think you explained it earlier, but I'm confused, so I'm asking. So we're saying that if until no one can harm me until Krishna wants, right?
Correct.
Because Krishna is controlling everybody's.
Correct.
So same thing is for me. I cannot harm somebody if Krishna wants. So why we have this law system, this punishment system?
That is because of the simple fact that if my mind is not controlled and if I have the false ego, then I am actually transgressing Krishna's rule and exhibiting my minute independence to do destruction and taking on the responsibility.
But so how I can do that? I can overrule Krishna.
So the idea here is that he's not going to tie your hand. So I'll give a simple example. If a child wants to go to a particular college and the father says, no, go to, instead of going to the X college, go to Y college, because that's better. The child, no, I want to do this. No, I want to do this. No, I want to do this. In the end, Krishna will say, do it. Because he also will give the permission to act against his wishes. The Jiva has that tendency to defy Krishna or to act according to Krishna. But Krishna is not going to hold back. If Krishna is going to hold back, then the responsibility of the person will be on Krishna, the good or bad done by the person. That's a logical thing, Prabhu, right? Mm-hmm. But, sorry, I didn't get your name. Who's asking the question? I can't see the...
Pradeep.
Pradeep, all right. But then, if you can see in the chapter 5, and Krishna writes, Na kartrutvam na karmani. Let's look up that particular verse. I'll chapter 5 of Bhagavad Gita. It's an interesting question you asked. I don't know if you are there for the previous semester, but
no, I joined in this semester.
I see. No problems. That's the reason I'll bring it up, because it's an important thing. 5:15. Na kartrutva nadatte kaschachit papam na chaiva sukritam ajnenavritam jnanam tena mukhyanti chantava. So here Krishna is saying in the translation, if you go in the translation, Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers the real knowledge. So Krishna is saying that the structure I have set in place, but if you transgress it, it is because of your own ignorance that you are transgressing it. You don't even know me, therefore you are transgressing it. You can still do some damage, but it's on you. The idea here is that he's there, you remember, Pradeep, there is that small voice that says, no, don't do this, this is wrong, or this is, and how many times the mind just goes through past it, and then because of strong attachment. The same thing, Krishna is, to the extent that one is surrendered to Krishna, to that extent Krishna will hold the devotee and pull back. Otherwise, there is no meaning to the word where Krishna says, Sarva Dharman Paritijya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. If Krishna cannot protect me, then, but if I surrender unto him, Krishna is saying, I'll protect you. But if you don't surrender unto me, I will give you that, I'll be sitting in the heart and I'll be observing, and I'll be giving you cues, but since you don't believe in me, you will do whatever nonsense you want to, and then you'll suffer. I'm not going to take your sinful reactions.
Okay.
Is that helpful?
Yeah. So thinking that, okay, so I believe in Krishna, so I will not do, I will follow his instructions. I will listen to him, right? But that doesn't mean another person who don't believe in Krishna means he's not listening to him, so he can still harm me because he's not listening to Krishna, and he just want to destroy everything, so he will destroy me too.
So I have a simple example. If you are an honest, straightforward citizen and somebody comes to rob your house, when you call on the police, will they come and protect you or not? Yes or no?
It depends which city we are talking. If I'm living in the San Jose, they don't do that.
Yeah, thanks for the good news. I also live in San Jose, so but in general,
that's what the role is.
Exactly. So if one actually surrenders to Krishna, Krishna protects from that person harming the devotee, but that harm can be exhibited elsewhere because of the devotee, because of that demoniac tendencies. I'll give an example. Prahlad Maharaj was harassed by his father, and he could have actually given paralysis to Hiranyakashipu so that he could not do anything. That can be one way, but he gave the option of Hiranyakashipu to torture his son, but he protected. So in what way Krishna will protect Pradeep is his prerogative, but the fact of the matter is that he does permit, and he does, even though he might permit Hiranyakashipu to kind of cause damage to Prahlad, he still protected Prahlad, right? So how he does it, how he does it is his choice.
Okay. And how, as a devotee or to be devotee, better word to use. So how I realize this, because the moment something happens with me, I get upset and I lose my faith. If Krishna is protecting me, why he didn't protect me right this moment? But the example you gave is awesome, that he let the Hiranyakashipu do, but still protecting the Prahlad. So, but as a to be devotee, how I understand this and how I keep remembering it.
Thank you, Pradeep, for that really candid and honest question. Krishna's protection not necessarily depends on my expectation on how he should protect me.
Okay.
For example, I'll give another example. Ravan was kidnapping Mother Sita. It was piteous. She was left alone in the forest, and by trick he lured away both Ram and Lakshman from the cottage, and Mother Sita was all alone. Disguised as a sannyasi, he kidnapped her. And Jatayu saw this. Jatayu saw this, and he rushed. Now, anybody who would predict the outcome of this particular event, what would be the prediction?
Yeah, Ravana will win.
Jatayu was old. He was just a mere bird. Ravan had such power that people feared. Why did Jatayu go? And more importantly, why didn't Ram protect Jatayu? No, Jatayu didn't do it for his own name or fame. He wanted to, and then Ravan viciously chopped off the wings and then fell down to the ground, and Jatayu actually died. So where did Lord protect his servant Jatayu? But please understand this truth. Krishna's protection can come in many ways. And Jatayu, even though he was mortally wounded, he died in the hands of the Supreme Personality of God. It's seeing Lord Ram face to face. You
Yes.
cannot expect a better death. Dying in the arms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. And what's more, that Lord will do your antakriya. He did the final rites for Jatayu. The Lord Ram performed. Can you imagine what more auspicious that can be? But on the face of it, it seems that Lord didn't protect. So Krishna's protection, Pradeep, comes in various ways. And so our goal will be that Krishna, you can give me whatever you want to give me, but I'm not going to budge an inch from your lotus feet. You can test me. That's your choice. You're the master and I am the servant. But my attitude is that I will be determined and steadfast at your lotus feet. I do not want anything else. And if that is the attitude, just a matter of time. And that's what is mentioned in Bhagavatam. Pattenukampam susamekshamano lunjana evatma kritam vipakam Ridbhagvapurbir vidadan namaste jive tayo mukti pade sadaya bha. For those who are wanting to know where it is, it's 10th canto, 14th chapter, 8th verse, where Lord Brahma says that one who tolerates the troubles of this material world, thinking that this is my own karma, but Krishna is actually giving me very less, and somehow he tolerates and still has full faith. Pradeep, that person is guaranteed liberation or mukti or bhakti. That's a whole other topic we can discuss. But I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. My only challenge right now is that, one thing is to understand it, right? But second thing is to feel it. I think I'm missing that. And I don't know.
No. Pradeep, it is a guaranteed thing that it will come if you follow this path of devotional service. It's just a matter of time. But otherwise, if it is only theoretical, then why read Bhagavatam? Why read this scripture?
No, I'm not saying it's theoretical. I'm saying it's one thing to understand it, but second, it's a different thing to feel it, that it's happening.
Yes, I agree. It will come. It will naturally come. It's just a matter of time. I guarantee you that.
Okay. No, I agree.
Thank you, Pradeep. Other questions? Other comments?
Yeah, I have also one question.
Sachinandan Hari Prabhu, can I beg for your permission that we have 3 more verses or 2 more verses to complete?
Sure.
And then we take questions. There is a logistical aspect, and then I'll take the question.
Sure.
Avanish?
Yes, Prabhu. So next to read is Sachinandan Hari Prabhu and Ramalingam Prabhu.
All right. Prakrityaiva cha karmani Kriyamanani sarvashah Yaha pashyati tatatmanam
Akartaram sapashyati. Translation. One who can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees.
Next verse.
Yada bhuta pritak bhavam.
Okay, I'll do Rangan, I'll do first and you can follow me, okay? Yata bhuta pritak bhavam
यदा भूतपृथग्भावम्
एकस्तम् अनुपश्यति
एकस्तम् अनुपश्यति
तत एव च विस्तारम्
तत एव च विस्तारम्
ब्रह्म सम्पाद्यते तदा
ब्रह्म सम्पाद्यते तदा. When a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, he attains to Brahman conception.
Thank you. Next question.
Next, Prabhu, Mrigakshi Vishnupriya Mataji and Ishwari Radha Mataji have requested to read again.
Okay. Anaditva nirgunatvat paramatmyam avyayaha Sharirastopi kaunteya
Sharirostapi Kaunteya
nakaroti na lipyate.
Nakaroti Nalipyate. Those with the vision of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body, O Arjuna, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Yatha sarvagatam saukshmyam
Yatha sarvagatam sokshmyad
akasham nopalipyate
akasham nopalipyate
sarvatravastito dehe
sarvatravastito dehe
tatatmanopalipyate.
Tatatmanopalipyate. Translation. The sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all-pervading. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body, those situated in that body. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada uses the example of air, where air passes through many different kinds of, for example, if the air passes through a dump, then you see the air is foul smelling, but the air passes through a beautiful rose, then it smells fragrant. But, passing through either of those, the air is not mixed or involved. So similarly, the soul also is, not mixed, or the super soul rather, is not involved. Yeah, the super soul doesn't touch, or is transcendental to this whole thing. Next verse. Yata prakashayatyekah.
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, please.
Yata prakashasyatyekaha
Kritsnam lokamimam ravihi.
Krishnam lokam imam ravihi
Kshetram kshetri tata kritsnam.
Kshetram kshetri tata Krishnam
Prakashayati bharata.
Prakashayati Bharata. Translation: O son of Bharata, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness.
Thank you. Another example is given. Two examples are given. The example of sky or air and example of sun is given here. Next verse. Okay. I'll ask someone who didn't read yet. Read. Rajanandini, can you read, please? Okay. Kshetra kshetrajnayorevam antaram jnana chakshusha bhuta prakriti moksham cha
Bhuta Prakriti Moksham Cha
Ye viduryanti te param.
Ye Viduryanti Te Param. Those who see with eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body, and can also understand the process of liberation from bondage in material nature, attain to the supreme goal.
Thank you. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada, actually, the first paragraph, I'll quickly read. The purport of this 13th chapter is that one should know the distinction between the body, the owner of the body, and the super soul. One should recognize the process of liberation as described in the verses 8 through 12. Then one can go on to the supreme destination. So in these 3 sentences or 2 sentences, Srila Prabhupada actually summarizes the entire particular chapter. So this is the 13th chapter, and when we talk more about, because it's mentioned that Purusha Prakriti Stodi, Bhunkte Prakriti Jan Gunan, Karanam Guna Sangosya, Sadasadyoni. So because of the modes of association of with the material nature, they take different bodies. Krishna explains at length what is the modes of material nature in the 14th chapter. So that's what we'll do next week. Just one last item before we take the question is that we will try to complete all the chapters by December end, and then we can take the exam in January. That's a tentative plan. So at least, during holiday, no, it's not immediately after holidays. So people, those who want to really turn off during holidays, it's not going to be very immediate. Maybe a little bit after mid-January or something like that, we'll do the exam. I just wanted to do the logistical thing. Sachinandan Hari Prabhu.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you for the wonderful class. Prabhuji, my question is on verse number 29, where it is mentioned that devotee sees Paramatma in everyone's heart. And I just wanted to understand the difference between those 2 points, Prabhuji. One point is seeing Paramatma in everyone's heart, and how pure devotee sees everyone as Atma, like the Uttama Adhikari. They see everyone as the part and parcel of Krishna, Atma. So how to understand these 2 things, Prabhuji? Are they same, or these are 2 different things?
So for those who need a little bit more clarification on the question, there are 3 types of devotees: the Kanishta in the beginning stage, Madhyama is the intermediate, and Uttama is the topmost stage. And the Uttama Adhikari qualification is that he sees that everyone is, actually there is no need to preach, because everybody is already engaged in service of Krishna in their most intimate way, or everybody is engaged in service of Krishna, whether in one way or other. The difference here is that the person sees the super soul as pervading everywhere, not necessarily thinking in terms of service to Krishna or the bhakti towards Krishna. But whereas Uttama Adhikari actually does that. In this case, the Jiva is saying that Ankur is a Atma and in his heart is Paramatma. That's all I know, and I can see that. But whether Ankur is in Madhurya Ras or Shringara Ras, or what sort of Ras he is and what sort of thing he's doing, that is not there at that point of time. So it is the Uttama Adhikari's vision is a little more higher than what is being mentioned here. Sachinandan Hari Prabhu.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Any other final questions or comments or concerns? We are 2 minutes over time, and I'm so grateful to each and every one of you for joining the class and allowing me to serve you. And please forgive me for any offenses. I will see you all in 2 weeks' time when we do the 14th chapter, which talks of modes of material nature. Any final concerns, questions, comments?
Thank you, Prabhu, for a wonderful class. Very interacting. I like this chapter a lot. Thank you.
I'm grateful that you came. Okay, if nothing else, then we can stop here.
Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha. Hare Krishna.